have Pawel Mierski. Pawel?
I'm here.
Come on up. Please join us. Pawel's a senior BI development consultant at Molson Coors. Pawel, you will be sitting right here for everybody. And then we have Milos. So come Milos from our favorite #1 leader attendee, Maple Leaf Foods, of course. So we can't forget that. And then we have David Ellis. David's a chief mobility architect and data scientist for a company that many of you may not know is called Liquid Analytics. And Liquid Analytics is one of our SAP HANA partners. So we'll talk to you about that in a second. If we can get this going, it's only 2 minutes, maybe we can get it. Right? No, it's not going to work.
You can get it from YouTube or Scott.
Yeah, we can do a YouTube later. We'll do a YouTube. We'll do it over lunch.
We'll do it over lunch.
Yeah, that's fine. We're going to do it live. Okay, so here's what we want to do. So we want to talk about what is SAP HANA, how are SAP customers making this real for them, and then how can you think about making it real for you. But one of the things that I cannot disclose at the moment are the results of an ASUG survey. ASUG did a HANA adoption survey. Did any of you see the email on the ASUG HANA adoption survey? It was sent to 100,000 people. All of you should have been sent this email. No? Okay. Well, I don't know why. Okay, there were hundreds and hundreds of people who responded to the ASUG HANA adoption survey, and the basic premise for the survey was, are you, as an SAP customer, adopting SAP HANA technology? And if so, why? And if not, why not? And what are the issues around why not? And the results of the survey are going to be disclosed very shortly from ASUG research. And one of the things that you're going to learn is that one of the reasons why customers are a little bit hesitant is they cannot understand the use case. It runs fast enough for me, so I don't need to run this in memory, which will be 100,000 times faster. I don't need this. Well, that may not necessarily be the case, because you actually might need this, and there are also outcomes, and Timo talked about one exact outcome that people are finding with the adoption of this new technology: simplification. Simplification of the IT landscape and reduction in cost.
Your panel.
Yeah, we'll run that later. Don't even worry about it. It's okay. It's this gentleman over here. A gorgeous video. We'll try to tee it up with another player later. So why don't we do this? Why don't we start with Molson Coors? A little bit of a background on Molson Coors. I think people in the region know Molson Coors, but in reference to SAP, what are we seeing at Molson Coors right now? You should have a microphone that you gentlemen can share, and then David and I are on the last.
Yeah, so right now, Molson Coors, we have, just to give you a little background, we have 3 BI instances. One for Canada, US, and UK, and we have 2 in Europe. So this gives you a BI landscape. ECC, we have 7 ECC instances. So it's a big SAP environment. It's hard to maintain. It used to be hard to maintain, I should say. Not anymore.
Something changed.
Yeah. So yeah, this is, and we've been in a close relationship with SAP for 15 years at Molson. So I know a lot of people at SAP, and some of them are my friends, and once you develop that relationship, it's really easy to work with SAP.
So Pawel, you're clearly experienced, you understand SAP, you understand the technology, you understand some of the offerings from SAP, and you've been working this for a very long time.
Yeah.
So dial back the clock a little bit for us, just to help understand. What pushed, so the audience is really asking, if they're not asking at the moment, they probably will, because later on we're going to get you to ask us questions. But a lot of ASUG customers and a lot of SAP customers are asking, why? Why do I need to do this? So was there a compelling event or some trigger that pushed your organization to move and look at SAP HANA?
SAP promised Molson Coors that the whole process of doing beer would be faster on HANA. Like the fermenting phase, the brewing phase, the bottling phase. It takes 5 weeks, right? It used to take 5 weeks. And they said that after you go on HANA, it's going to take only 2 days.
Wait a minute, so I got to wait 5 weeks to get beer, or I can get beer in 2 days? I take the 2 days.
No, it's not that. What happened is that back in 2012, Molson Coors, they purchased a brewery in Europe, Star Bev. It's one of the biggest breweries in Europe, and they had BI instances there and BCC instances over there. So we wanted to have one BI instance. Why have three when you can only have one? So we said, well, we had the BI accelerator, back in Canada, and we had to replace it. We had to buy bigger databases if you wanted just one BI instance. So we said, well, if instead of buying more Oracle software, more Oracle database, why don't we go on HANA? And we had a lot of big latency issues with our data. The finance people, they used to have reports, on a daily basis. They were critical for them, and on Oracle, those reports were always late. Every day they would call the BI team and they said, I don't have my report. What's going on? I need this. I cannot work anymore. It's your fault. I'm like, oh my God. So this pushed us, to move to HANA.
Right. So reporting performance.
Yeah.
Well, what about for Maple Leaf, Milos? I mean, a lot of people know the Maple Leaf story. I think you're certainly no stranger to this group, and many know you and your colleagues as well. But if you go back, and maybe there might be some people in the audience who might not know the history, because Maple Leaf Foods was an early HANA adopter, way back when, and customer number 11 or something like this, or
no, it was lucky 13 in the world. And,
13 in the world?
Number one in Canada, basically.
Yeah.
So we went live on HANA back in January of 2012. This was our first implementation. We have HANA in all forms and shapes and flavors as it comes. So we have a HANA sidecar implementation. That was our first deployment. This is basically a standalone data mart, which is used as a development platform. So it doesn't really, BW doesn't run on it, which is a typical implementation these days. But we started off back at that, I guess, a couple of years ago. BW wasn't ready, and we weren't on the right release for putting BW on HANA. So we decided to go with a standalone approach in two stages. First, a small implementation, really, where we deployed one report for a limited group of users, but with a large data set, relatively large data set. So we took our key learnings from that, and 4 months later, actually, we rolled it out to one of our key business units. One of the drivers for that was that basically we just couldn't, we suffered a bit of a step back, to be honest with you, by implementing BW on Oracle.
Yeah.
Prior to that, Maple Leaf was on Cognos, on SQL Server, with smaller cubes, very fast technology users who were very happy, basically. So when we went live with SAP and BW, those business units that went live basically migrated over to SAP BW. And they were struggling a bit, to be honest with you, because the reports were not performing well, right? So the directive from our CFO was clear: the next business unit that goes live on SAP cannot really take the step back. So we had to make this work. We had to make it fast, especially because Maple Leaf Foods has really a culture of basically strong appetite for analytics and a strong culture of self-service. So users like to create and write their own reports. It's impossible without good performance.
Did you find that more users within the organization and end users were adopting analytics based on this deliverable?
Absolutely, and we actually we monitor this very closely. We have reports, statistics basically on user adoption of our system that we actually share with the business, and because they're interested to see who's running reports. And it has picked up, tremendously after we actually deployed HANA. Our second HANA deployment is a more recent one. Basically, we went live on our VPC instance of BW. So we have two instances of BW. They're both enterprise-wide, but the first one is the big enterprise BW, about 8 terabytes, which is running on Oracle, and that one is pumping data to HANA standalone for acceleration. Right? The other instance of BW is a newer one, 7.3. That is used for VPC only, again globally, and that one is running on actually HANA as database, powered by HANA as database. So that went live last year.
So we'll get into a little bit more of that when we come back. First, I want to talk about data. And so liquid analytics sounds pretty good to me. What is this? Please describe for the audience. What is it? What do you do? What does your company do? And what is your organization's connection with SAP and HANA? Because that, I think, is important for folks to understand as well. I think Timo mentioned something about 1,000 plus startups, or I think the number from annual conference was more like around 1,300 at the moment. But you're one of them. So what does this mean to the audience?
Okay, well, first off, can you hear me?
You're up.
With the mic, perfect. We're not quite as sexy as Molson's from a liquid perspective. Although it's part of our branding, but you know, I kind of want to work for Molson's after hearing that. What we are, we're a partner as part of the SAP Partner Program with HANA. What does that mean exactly? It's kind of it's a good question. Fundamentally, we work very closely with SAP. They are helping us get customers. They are helping us get access to technology. We are getting access to SAP HANA instances in the cloud, is a good example. In many ways, it's like working with a venture capitalist that really wants you to succeed. They aren't providing us with funds. They're providing us with the other aspects that we need. They've helped grow our customer base. It's very much a collaborative startup environment. The way one of my colleagues referred to it is they're almost like the anti-corporation. It's like dealing with another startup. And they've been very helpful in helping us get to where we are and do what we need to do. HANA itself has contributed to our success, but prior to dealing with HANA, we dealt a lot with big data before the HANA environment came into play. So we've had a chance to really sort of compare it to where we were and where we're going. And it's done a lot for us.
So, just to dispel the rumor that HANA is only a database, how would you respond to that to the audience? You help them. Is HANA with? You know it's not, right? You know it's not. So, what is HANA? On the fact that
that's
it's
a
more
trick
than
question. That is a totally trick question. What is HANA? HANA's everything. But depending on who you talk to, HANA's not just a database. Okay, it is a great database. Don't get me wrong. It does wonderful things with data. But it's also a set of libraries. It's also a development tool for web. It's also a set of business logic. It's a full suite of tools and platforms to get your data to the end user, whether that end user is another application or whether it's a web page that the user is pulling up directly. It's not a one-shop shop for everything. It's never going to do that, but it does give you tools to get you there faster. In many ways, it's like standing, here's a cliche of the night, standing on the shoulders of giants. In many ways, you're doing that. I'm not writing functions to aggregate massive amounts of data in many instances. I'm using what's there. A lot of the predictive algorithms that I need are built into the PAL,
Right.
the predictive algorithm library that comes with HANA. It's a phenomenal tool, but it's not just data.
We'll get into some of that. In fact, we just did a webcast on the HANA has service packages that are upgraded every period or so. We're on service package 8, SP8, for those of you that are in HANA lingo. And as part of this, SAP just updated what we call our friendly old PAL, which is the predictive analytics library, predictive analysis library. Fantastic information. We just did a webcast on this that's available in the HANA International Focus Group community, of which all of you have access. So we'll go through that a little bit later. So we said that HANA helps you simplify, but it may not be simple to simplify. So that's kind of the conundrum that we're facing. We want to try to overcome our barriers. Coming back to Molson Coors, one of the things you talked about were where you were going with the project. And you also mentioned to me earlier that there might have been some challenges. So let's be frank, we have an open forum. Were there some challenges that you had to overcome as a team, and how did you overcome those challenges when you did this?
Yeah, of course we had some challenges. The biggest one was before we went live on HANA, we were writing back data to some Oracle databases from BI, and like it was an old program. It used some virtual tables, so it's a bit hard to explain. But anyway, on HANA this would not work anymore. So what we did, at the same time we did HANA, we implemented data services. So HANA was already a lot of work. So data services, over that, it was even more work.
Even more work.
Yeah, and we were only 2 on the project, myself and one of my colleagues. So, but we managed to do it. And at the same time, there was another huge project that was running for the last 2 years. So, in addition to HANA, to data services, there was also this project that was blocking objects, and all kind of BI, technical stuff. So,
Well, here's the interesting piece. When you say BI technical stuff, we've had about 38 of our HANA Spotlight webcasts, and these are done by customers, as I told you guys earlier. One of the things that we ask generally to the speaker is, what are the resources that can help you with this difficult technical stuff? So were you able to find resources that already had the knowledge, or did they need to go through some Delta training?
No,
They don't?
no.
Oh, okay. This is good.
But I mean, overall, for us, going live on HANA was a very, very simple thing, because what we did is we changed the database basically.
Yes.
The underwriting database, instead of being Oracle, tomorrow it's HANA, and in production it took 2 days to do it. So it was no big deal at all. We didn't have to change nothing in BI. We had the BIA before, so it helped. But it
It's
was
easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
So we'll do it.
Do it.
So why are you waiting? Go do it. Milos,
And-
let me go to you for a second, if I may. That was excellent input. We talked a little bit about the prior initiatives, and then we wanted to talk now about Maple Leaf, I guess, year 3. So, HANA, 12, 13, 14, right? Is my math right? I think so. Year 3. So, where are we now? And what is being done today to take advantage of this fast engine, multi-platform device that is available to a lot of different departments and end users, as opposed to where Maple Leaf was a couple years ago? What's the thinking now?
So we definitely realized some benefits of the HANA speed, and mainly in the space of sales and financial reporting. So one of our basically key reports that is a P&L style of reports, call it statement of gross profit. For comparison, I can give you, used to run about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the filters and criteria, I guess, in our BW Oracle-based instance. Once we move that on to HANA sidecar, standalone, that's now down to 30 to 45 seconds, right? And off of that, it's only about 2-3 seconds of HANA time. Everything else is business objects or webby.
Also, that's the problem.
So we're definitely thinking about expanding because it's mostly sales and finance that have benefited, reporting, I guess, that have benefited from this. We'd like other functions, I guess, across the organization to really benefit of this investment. And we're basically thinking about expanding into adjacent basic data sets like orders, deliveries, and shipments, moving that over, and so that we can put our customer service on HANA as well, and allow them to really get fast analytics on fill rates and effective replenishment.
So guys, the rumor out there, so HANA is only for SAP data. That's the rumor.
Not true.
Not true, right? You just mentioned other data sources.
Absolutely.
So HANA can import a variety of data sources, work with any data source, anywhere.
So yeah, we were definitely thinking about point of sale, for instance, right? Maple Leaf is putting it in HANA.
Fantastic, fantastic. So David, to help make it real on what Liquid Analytics is doing, are there some examples you have, without maybe naming names of clients, or are there some benefits that clients are deriving from your solutions as it's being operated on the HANA platform?
So I can actually talk about customers that were deployed prior to HANA and then subsequently.
So kind of a, okay.
So before and after.
Before and after, if then, okay.
So just a background on some of the applications we built. We focus very much on a vertical for sale of products. So we target the sales rep of a manufacturer or a wholesaler. So typically it's someone with not a long attention span, very aggressive, very type A, need it now, going to sell. And what we were doing is the traditional model. We were sending a large amount of data down to the device. Here's your pricing spreadsheet. Here's your customer list. Go sell these 50,000 customers. And we were doing that using traditional tools. This is pre-HANA. And of course, they had to start their experience with the application with a 45-minute data dump to their iPad.
Yeah.
Needless to say, my inbox was full. Did not go well. They used it, it succeeded, but there was that initial headache, always that initial headache. Where HANA really stepped in and helped us in this regard is by using predictive analytics. And I can't emphasize that enough. Traditional model is you take data from, you have a nightly batch job, pulling data from mainframes, from here, from there, there's legacy up the wazoo, there's a warehouse over here. You're trying to bring it all into one source so that you can figure out what you're going to do and send it off to somebody. We've emphasized simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. HANA is simple. It's one data source in many cases. It's feeding off of these other things, but it's in real time. I'm not queuing up a nightly batch job, and God knows my pager isn't going off at 3 in the morning. Right? Old school. What HANA did is it allowed us to, one, simplify that process, and two, get the data that we're bringing down to the end user, in this case the sales rep, a very targeted list of accounts that are going to buy. We're using algorithms like depletion rate. We're figuring out, clusters. So, 20 people in that neighborhood bought an Italian sofa. You might want to sell an Italian sofa. So we build these algorithms, and we're using HANA's Pawel in some instances, and we're using a few of our own tricks to get that data through. And this really sort of gave us a stepping stone to make that happen.
That's a really great story. Back to benefits. So you've been live 8 months or so,
Yeah.
right? What are some benefits that Molson Coors is really seeing some benefits right now? So if we had to throw in some takeaways, like so people should just really remember, here's what we're getting from the investments we made in this technology. Do we have some advice, or
Yeah.
do we have some?
The first weeks after we went live, the immediate benefits were, the BI loads, they would be there like 3 times faster than before. So, everyone was happy in the company. Finance was happy. I have my reports at 7 a.m. Even if a load fails during the night, 15 minutes later, the whole BI schedule is finished anyway, because, it's so fast. But over time, we managed to simplify our BI solution. So now if the business wants a new column, we can do it in 3 days, with all the tests, all the documentation, and all the approvals from the auditors. It takes 3 days instead of, it used to be sometimes 3 to 4 months, because there were so many layers of different queues, of different objects. So, and every time the business would ask us to add something in a BI queue, it would cost them like $100,000 and 4 months of work, because it was so complicated. There were so many layers, and now, instead of having a different queue per region, per month, per week, we have one queue and that's it. Because
so the aggregates are gone.
Yeah, no more aggregates.
This is the epitome of simplification. So folks understand this, right? So when all the memories in the database, the analysis, the analytic processing can take place in memory, queues are not necessary anymore.
No, exactly. You can just use DSOs, no more queues if you want.
Okay.
And can I add more stuff?
Well, you may add as much as you like. Unless you guys want to interrupt, because we want to have some time, a little bit from now, for you to ask questions as well. We don't want to forget about you.
There's also, BI workspaces that are available on HANA, and it's a tool that the business can use to upload the data to queues themselves.
Right.
So there's no IT work involved at all.
Self-service.
Yeah.
Makes it easier.
BI as a self-service.
So people will have the nice smiley that comes back on the reviews of IT.
Da Vinci.
It's a Da Vinci. You're right. We need that. I need that Da Vinci slide. You turn that frown upside down. It's perfect. I love it. Do we have some comments, Milos, around future plans? Kind of whatever you're able to disclose for the group, because we know a lot about Maple Leaf. Where do you think we're going moving forward?
So we're definitely thinking about expanding in the space of predictive analytics. Right? So we do very little of that today.
Yeah.
There are some very popular reports that we have and we push out to the business that really predict where we are going to end, for instance, the fiscal period. But those are based on really simple linear extrapolation. Right? It's really simple. I sold this much in the first week. I'm going to assume I'm going to keep selling that base, and this is where I'm going to end up the month. However, we believe we can be much better at this. So the plans are to really incorporate future pricing, to incorporate demand planning, and as well as to incorporate our trade programs, so future trade promotion, stuff like that. Really integrate all these data sets, and with the Power of HANA, actually allow us to really predict where we are going to be in 6 months. So that's part of our plan. Another, I mentioned our enterprise BW, which is an 8 terabyte installation of BW that's sitting on Oracle right now.
Yeah.
So really we're building a business case now to migrate that, first to upgrade that, because it's a 7.0 installation, to upgrade that instance to 7.4, and to put it in HANA, and even thinking about the cloud, right? Because it would be obviously a smaller initial outlay of cash to start the project.
So Dave, you feel free to comment as you wish. And this one kind of goes out to any of the panelists. One of the things that I know came back from the survey from ASUG that you'll see very soon published is that a lot of customers are reticent to move to HANA because they may not be ready from an upgrades perspective. In other words, the ERP system's not ready, or the BW system's not ready, and you need to do an upgrade cycle, and maybe you need to do a hardware upgrade cycle, and that's 2, and then you need to do a HANA install, so that's 3. So it seems like it's complex to go simple, but that may not necessarily be the case in your situations. You're already live with other SAP deployments, so you might comment on that a little bit for the audience? Because I know this is kind of the big elephant in the room type of thing for a lot of customers right now, in terms of how difficult was it to move existing systems into a HANA architecture?
Well, in our particular case, so we moved our VPC BW. So initially that VPC BW instance was Oracle-based. It was done in about 4 months, roughly. And it was a relatively simple database migration, similar to what Molson did, Pawel, in his project. It was very successful. I actually spoke with our finance folks last night, and he gave me a few examples of significant improvement there. So jobs that used to take, for instance, 9 hours, copy from their actual to, so there's a package called copy from actual to forecast category in VPC. It used to take 9 hours in Oracle. It takes 45 minutes now. So just incredible improvements. And this will actually, this is creating an opportunity for Maple Leaf Foods now to shorten our business planning cycle for the next year, which traditionally used to take months and months.
Yes.
We see an opportunity to take this down to a couple months tops now.
Yeah, we see that as well. And one of the companies that Timo mentioned earlier, Unilever, which has been live on HANA for a couple of years now. Last year, SAP put out a promotion on saphana.com. It was called Join the 10,000X Club, right? And then we're Join the 100,000X Club. You can get 10,000X performance improvement or more, then you're part of this club. Unilever made it by a long shot because they were 13,000X. And so we're seeing a lot of this happening within various processes, with reporting, close, consolidation processes within the organization. Same thing with Molson Coors, I would imagine, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen 10,000 times, VI old accelerations. It's not always the case, but in some cases it's there. And some jobs used to take 5-6 hours. Now I've seen them take less than 1 minute. So
think about it. Now we have 5 minutes, so not much time left. But I want to close with a thought from David also. So how do people that are in the audience, how they learn about where to find all of this great information? Is there a marketplace or some place where they can go to learn all of these things? I hate to plant the word, but you know where I'm steering.
I know where he's steering me. He's steering me to the SAP Marketplace, which means he's steering all of you to the SAP Marketplace.
Go.
There is a lot of information online via the SAP Marketplace, and believe it or not, I mean, a lot of this material is actually indexable through Google as well.
Yeah,
so if
that's
you have,
correct.
I hate to say it or give a plug to a search engine, maybe a competitor to somebody here.
That's okay.
There's a lot of information available out there right now on HANA, and you're going to see a lot of different threads. Okay, so I know, for example, when I was dealing with things that weren't necessarily covered by the SAP Marketplace, as clearly as I would have liked, and we can talk about that, I was able to find the answers I needed through Google. So the two together really help you out. There's a lot of community out there. There is actually a surprisingly growing community of developers that are willing to sort of help you through some of the pitfalls.
The other thing I want to, and that was excellent feedback, the other thing I want to emphasize to you folks is, if you're interested in HANA training, what are the courses available? How do I work through a procedure? How do I understand the guided procedures? How do I understand how to set up the data structure within the HANA database itself? Did you know there's something called the SAP HANA Academy? HANA Academy. It's on saphana.com. If there's one URL you write down, please write down. Why aren't you writing? saphana.com. It's fabulous. There's so much content out there. People don't understand that we have use cases posted. We have an entire academy out there. Joe King's what's called the chancellor of the SAP HANA Academy. He's a good friend of mine, and we feature him on the community. Go join the community. We work in conjunction, hand in hand, with ASUG. There's a community for you to learn everything you want to know about HANA. It's called the International Focus Group, ifg.saphana.com. And we have a question. This might begin the open Q&A. Let's do that. We have about 7 to 8 minutes left. Do we have Miriam? Stack? We have a mic?
That's okay, you'll hear me. I have a question for you.
Okay, please shout.
Right now with the implementation of HANA, you're changing the infrastructure, the foundation of SAP, the way it's performing and working. Today you talked about streamlining business processes and enhancing reporting technology. Most SAP shops build up their modules or their infrastructure support systems around the modules that exist in SAP. What are the staffing impacts by implementing a HANA, and how do you handle the change management process if there was any staffing reductions with the new technology, and how do you leverage that technology?
That's actually a great question for customers that have gone through this process themselves. So how do we adopt some of the new processes within an SAP HANA environment? What changes in the environment?
How do you handle the change management?
How do we handle change management, or some of these things done? If we have some thoughts on this, feel free to comment on what the reality is behind the magic.
To be honest, for us, change management, it was not impacted at all. We use the same processes we used to use, and as you say, there was a staff reduction, and the company didn't expect to reduce the IT team. But with HANA, it became so much easier to develop new BI solutions, and the BI loads are so much quicker and easier to solve that they said, well, we don't need as many people as we did before. So, and it's something when we decided to go live on HANA, it was never considered that there will be a cost reduction because you need less people. So in fact, the HANA project cost even less, not to say it was free, but not far from free.
Sorry, along those lines, did you do a return on investment analysis in comparison to the investment of HANA to see what kind of return as far as staffing reductions offsetting the cost of the implementation?
We didn't do that because when we first implemented HANA, the idea was to, instead of investing in old technologies, we decided to go on HANA, and the price was the same for us to go on HANA or to change our BIA and to change, to upgrade our Oracle databases. So, for the company, going on HANA was, in their minds was almost free. And we realized most of the benefits we have today, we did not know about these benefits when we took the decision to go on HANA. And I think this is what the biggest mistake, that people are making by not going on HANA, is they try to count all these benefits before they go live on HANA, because you can't. It's impossible to realize all the benefits you will have once you have HANA. I cannot imagine that you can,
There's no way to say it. It is disruptive technology. We heard this earlier. HANA will disrupt the way you do certain operations, and some things are going to change. The change management processes, the methodologies that are built into your processes now, the large parts of that's going to be the same. Your business is your business is your business. I can't change that. What it will allow you to do is it's going to allow you to reduce some of your support costs. Now that said, that shouldn't be the main driver. It's really moving people around. It's not cutting people out of the loop. To be honest, I have had a lot of customers do reduction of headcount. What I've had them do is I've had them reduce the number of people supporting something at 3 a.m. and shifting that over into people that are actually doing a process of the data, something valuable. There is no value to having me on the phone at 2 a.m. on a conference call with 40 people, and I'm sure we've all done it at some point if we've had to support a system. That's really where I see the value in that. That's my take on it.
In the case of Maple Leaf Foods, we didn't have any staffing changes. Basically, we only trained our DPA team and as well as our business intelligence development and support team, basically to in HANA Design Studio, because that's our sidecar approach, and the other side requires no basic change management if you just put it as a database.
On the ROI, and thank you for that comment, on the ROI, there is a study that was done by IDC around the University of Kentucky, one of the early HANA customers as well. They realized a 500+% ROI on the HANA investment. It's published by a third-party International Data Corp, IDC. You can go to which website? SAP HANA. You can find that study. So there have been some studies. We'll take one more question, I think, and then Jill's going to tell us to quit because we have to feed you guys. 1 second. We have 2. You guys fight it out to see who asks.
Death match. I always want
We'll be here. We'll be here as well. All right, we'll take 2. We'll take the gentleman speaking and then the one who will get to.
Hopefully this isn't a complex question, but I keep hearing about cubes and data loads, and BI data loads. To me, from a visionary standpoint, I think that goes away with HANA. Am I wrong? I keep hearing it, but to me, Timo had mentioned something about HANA Live. I don't know what that is.
Business process.
But to me, HANA, I keep hearing this overnight process of these batch jobs. Does that ever go away with HANA?
Okay, some thoughts on that for the real examples?
Real-world examples, I mean, I do have some examples that I can't really discuss too in depth, but I can give you the highlights, so I'm going to jump to that. A lot of the cubes do disappear. Sorry, I've been focusing on the set of people here. A lot of your cubes do disappear, but not all of them do. I mean, it's not going to miraculously change the world. It's not going to brew beer faster. You're still going to have cubes. You're still going to have some of that operational impact, okay? We still have customers that move to SAP HANA and do the nightly jobs. However, when there are operations that they needed at the drop of a hat, we've moved those into, I'd call it into a 100% HANA type environment, where we're doing that analysis in real time, in memory.
Quick comment?
Yeah, I had the same question basically a few months ago that I asked of SAP, and I think the answer is that operational reporting will probably start shifting, because we have a lot of that going on in the analytics space, that will start shifting back to the transactional systems that are running on HANA, and you will still continue to have some analytics systems that separate.
And one final question from the gentleman with the mic in the blue shirt, please.
Yeah, hi. Actually, Mike, it's interesting that you brought it up. I was going to ask you, Scott. What I'm hearing is that you've taken your reporting or analytical processes, you scaled them down a little bit, and get rid of the aggregation and the things that were designed to speed up the analytics. But you're still doing the ETL. There's still a business latency between the origination of the data and when the data gets analyzed and fed back to the business. Timo mentioned something that I really liked earlier, which was taking the information on a real-time basis and mapping it to a promotion and trying to kind of push the market in the direction that you want. I see that as something, let's say, that the investment banks would want to do, or a retailer would want to do, where you can look at real-time, up to the second data, have promotions teed up, and actually apply those promotions immediately. But you can't really do that, in my mind, unless you're actually running SAP live on HANA and having the analytics not using not designed in a way that you're using them now, but that by their nature assume that latency in the business origination and delivery, but analytics that are designed to deliver up to the second data. So my question is really directed to you, Scott, because you probably see this on a worldwide basis. Where do you see a world where you see that level of adoption of running ERP on HANA, as well as the analytics being transitioned from a latency, an assumption of latency, to an assumption of immediacy?
Anytime a company wants to, and that's a great question, Very simply, anytime a company wants to run a real-time business in a simple way. One quick example, gaming. Anybody kids with gamers? They addicted to the games and they got to be right on target, right real time with games. A company in Germany called Big Point, they make a game called Battlestar Galactica. I don't play it. The Trekkies tell me Battlestar Galactica is not a Trekkie game, so they don't play it. But this game will give you a real-time offer, if you're a gamer, to add either value, power, or a certain sword or something like this. That's all being done real-time, using data that is input in the cloud, real-time, into a HANA database, and those offers are being made at that moment. So don't think that if you're sitting in an airline seat and you paid a little bit too much money from the person that's sitting next to you, that that airline did not use SAP HANA to price your seat, because they probably did. Sorry. That's how they make money. So that's a great question. Folks, we're going to be here for the rest of the day. We would love to continue this conversation. It's engaging. It's brilliant. I want to thank Pawel personally. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Milos, David, please give him a round of applause.